All right, everybody, welcome back to the EFI Hardware Podcast. We're still your hosts, even though we sound a little different, right?
Yeah.
We're AI voices this time, but that doesn't mean the info's any less legit. It's all been checked out
Yeah, human approved.
by the pros over at EFI Hardware.
Definitely.
Single versus dual fuel pump setups.
Yeah, it's a classic.
It's one of those things that might seem straightforward at first glance. But trust me, there's a whole lot more to it than meets the eye. So let's jump right in. One thing that's always intrigued me is the Australian car culture and their approach to fuel system design. They have this, no-nonsense mentality when it comes to performance.
Oh, yeah. The Aussies definitely don't mess around. They're all about pushing cars to the limit, whether it's on the track or the street.
And that's led to some seriously innovative fuel system designs coming out of that part of the world. It's about maintaining a stable and consistent supply, no matter what.
Couldn't agree more. A lot of people don't realize that a 1.1 fuel supply ratio isn't ideal. You don't want the pump constantly trying to match the exact fuel demand of the engine.
It's like walking a tightrope.
Right.
One wrong step and the whole system could go haywire.
Exactly. You need that buffer, that safety net.
And Fuel Return provides that by ensuring there's always a reserve of fuel ready to go.
It keeps the fuel bucket or surge tank full, acting as a reservoir of calm in the middle of all the chaos.
That's a great analogy. But now let's talk about something that can really throw a wrench in the works. Fuel surge.
Ah, yes, the dreaded fuel surge.
It's not just annoying, it can actually have a significant impact on performance.
Absolutely, fuel surge can cause all sorts of issues.
So for those who might not be familiar, what exactly is fuel surge and what kind of problems does it create?
Well, in simple terms, fuel surge happens when the fuel in your tank sloshes around violently, especially during hard acceleration, braking, or cornering.
I can picture it now, fuel sloshing back and forth like it's on a wild roller coaster ride.
Exactly, and all that sloshing disrupts the smooth flow of fuel to the engine.
Leading to inconsistent fuel delivery and those frustrating flat spots during acceleration.
Right, your engine isn't getting a steady supply of fuel, so it can't perform at its best.
And that's where surge tanks come in.
Also known as anti-surge tanks.
They act like a damper on that fuel sloshing, smoothing things out and ensuring a consistent supply of fuel to the engine.
Exactly. A surge tank is like a buffer between the fuel tank and the engine, keeping things calm and steady.
Now, we know there are two main types of surge tanks, internal and external.
Right.
What are the pros and cons of each?
Well, internal surge tanks are integrated into the OEM fuel pump module. It makes for a cleaner installation, but it can be quite challenging from an engineering perspective.
I can imagine. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole sometimes, trying to pack all that performance into the factory housing.
You got it. Then you have external surge tanks, which are separate units. They often offer greater capacity and are generally easier to service, but they do require more space and plumbing.
So it seems like choosing between the two really depends on your specific application and priorities.
Exactly.
Do you want a super clean install, or do you need maximum fuel capacity? So, when do dual pumps actually become a necessity?
Generally speaking, when you're pushing beyond 600 to 650 horsepower or need high fuel flow rates for extended periods.
Okay, so we're talking about serious power levels here.
Right. You might see this in endurance racing or high boost applications where the fuel system is under constant stress.
What are some of the key advantages of running dual pumps?
Well, first and foremost, redundancy. If one pump fails, the other can often keep you running, at least for a while. That's crucial in endurance racing or any situation where a fuel system failure could be catastrophic.
Redundancy. Always a good thing when you're pushing the limits. What else?
Dual pumps can also support lower base fuel pressures, leading to reduced current draw. This can be beneficial for both performance and pump longevity.
So it's not just about having twice the flow. It's about optimizing the entire system for efficiency and reliability.
Exactly.
Now, there's another crucial factor to consider when choosing a fuel system setup, especially for those looking to make serious power.
You're talking about E85, right?
You read my mind.
It's a game changer in terms of performance potential.
But it also places greater demands on your fuel system.
Absolutely. E85 has a different stoichiometric ratio than gasoline, meaning you need to flow significantly more of it to achieve the same power output.
So if you're thinking about making the switch to E85, you'll need to carefully consider your fuel system's capacity.
Definitely. Larger injectors are a must, and your fuel pump will be working overtime.
And you can't forget about material compatibility. E85 can be corrosive to certain materials commonly used in fuel systems.
You're absolutely right. That's why we at EFI Hardware take extra care in selecting materials for our E85 compatible systems. Teflon-lined fuel lines and stainless steel components, for example, are essential for long-term durability.
Now, before we move on, I wanted to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the importance of fuel return. You mentioned it acts as a safety net, but there's more to it than that, right?
You're right. Fuel return doesn't just prevent fuel starvation, it also plays a crucial role in thermal management.
Thermal management, so it's like a cooling system for your fuel.
Exactly. As fuel circulates through the system, it picks up heat from the engine and the pumps themselves. Having a proper fuel return allows that heated fuel to flow back to the tank, where it can cool down before being recirculated.
So it's like a continuous loop, keeping the fuel at a consistent temperature and preventing it from getting too hot.
Precisely. And this is especially important in high-performance applications where the fuel system is under greater stress and generating more heat.
Right, you're pushing those pumps harder, demanding more flow, and everything's running hotter.
Exactly.
All right, well, that pretty much wraps up our deep dive into fuel system design for today.
It's been fun.
If you want to learn more about EFI Hardware and their products, head over to EFIHardware.com. They've got a ton of great info on their website, and their team's always happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, those guys are passionate about fuel systems, and they love helping people out.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the EFI Hardware Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Until next time, keep those engines fueled and those tires smoking.